Hi, welcome to Radio Out There. I'm Barry Eaton. Well, we are rapidly heading towards the end of this year, aren't we? I thought we might look back now and have a chat to Pete Smith. Now, Pete is a regular on our program, but he's just been to the Barcelona conference of the Michael Newton Institute. So that and a lot more we're going to chat about this week on Radio Out There. Pete Smith, how are you? Way up north in Australia, and I'm down in the middle bit, but we haven't seen each other in the flesh, as it were, for a while now.
It has been a while, Barry. It's nice to see you now, even on camera.
Yeah, you too. Now, you've just come back from Barcelona, and how was it all over there? Because I contacted you about a week or so ago, and you said, "Oh, I'm in Barcelona at the moment." Oh, really? So, why were you there for a start?
Yeah, look, I'm just back fresh from the Michael Newton Institute World Conference. We had people who do the Life Between Lives hypnotherapy, and we've talked about that a lot on your show.
We have,
Michael Newton's work. Every several years, we gather our people from all around the world to talk about the latest things that are happening in that work, just to reconnect with old friends. And, you know, some of those guys I've known 20 years now, which is just fantastic for us all to get together. And, you know, to do it in different places around the world is great. It's our first one in Europe. And, we talked about the most recent trends coming out of the work, and we launched our new publishing wing, which is how we can take the Life Between Lives work to the world in a different way than what we had before.
And what's the story with that one? What's the update on the publishing?
Well, for a while we've been publishing. We've published 3 books before. We published it through a publishing company. But as you know, as an accomplished author, whenever you work with a big publishing firm, you have to toe the line or conform to whatever their way of working is.
Yeah, their precepts.
That's it. And they have full editing control and all of that. And sometimes I feel that the message becomes, it can be filtered, or it can be sort of changed a little bit, that loses some of the heart and soul out of what we're trying to say.
They can even change your title, and you're not too happy about that.
Yes, yeah, you know that one from experience.
Know that one.
So
no comeback, because they have final say. So, you know, authors, it's not a wonderful freebie here and everywhere. You are restricted in many ways, no matter how good you are.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people think it's great to become an author of a big publishing firm, but by the time you work through what that requires, and you have to let go of a little bit of what you want to do. Anyway, because our work, you know, comes straight from spirit, and it's the client stories that inspire people, we just wanted to be able to freely offer what we do to the world without anything in the way. So we founded at Michael Newton Institute, we founded M&I Publishing, and we've just got our first book out. And that's been it's an amalgamation of many stories that we've published in different places over the years, but we've built it together in different themes. So it's, you know, it's a book that's hitting the market now just in time for Christmas, but perhaps we'll talk about that a lot more another time. But what it's given us is it's given us a free rein to be able to share our message with the world.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, you have offered to send me a copy, so why don't we talk about that once we get into the new year, and I'll have a chance to read the book in the meantime, and take it from there. What do you reckon?
Yeah, sounds good to me.
All right, good one. So the overall object then of M&I is to publish books for the general public. It's not just for people who are members of the Institute. That's
right. So we're going to be publishing, and we've done it before a few times with under the old arrangement. But it's about sending inspiring stories out to the world that come from our practitioners in 40 different countries 20 different languages. Of course, we're just publishing in English to start with. But I mean, it's all about following the lead that Michael Newton started on bringing spirit to earth and helping people find their connections into the afterlife while we're still in body and not having to wait till it's all over.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, I'm sure that just about everybody knows who Michael Newton was, but just for those people who may be coming to us for the first time, just a quick potted history of Michael Newton.
Of course. Well, Michael was he was a normal psychologist in California many years ago, and then he started to discover that, you know, there was more to life than what we thought. People were asking him to do past life regressions and all that. And he says, "Oh, I don't do that sort of thing." but then he flipped into this place on a couple of occasions that were the place where people go between incarnations. And as the true researcher that he was, he says, "Well, if this is here, I need to have a look at it." And he did that 7,000 times over 35 years with that number of clients, taking them to a place where they get to the end of an incarnation. He eventually got dragged into the past life stuff and beyond against his wishes, which is great when somebody's reluctant, because it means that they're not sort of influenced by anything. He was just following his clients' journeys. So he started to put a map together of the afterlife, about where we go, what we do there, the souls that we connect with, the esteemed spiritual beings that we work with, whether it be a guide or a spiritual counsel that guides us from one life to another. And he mapped their stories. His clients were his teachers. He then started to teach us. Michael passed, of course, about 8 years ago. But he taught us how to do this method before he left, and our role now is to evolve it further and to look at the structures that he built. And a lot of the clients coming through now are not needing that much structure, and they just spin off into the afterlife. They gain the wisdom that they need to have an understanding of why you're here in this lifetime and what your purpose is. I mean, it's something that brings a level of purpose to life and connection to life that we wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yeah. Well, he has helped and inspired so many, not only the 7,000 people he's regressed, but so many other people have flowed on from that. And it's been an amazing thing. I must tell you, I haven't told you this before, but I've been writing a book, and uncovering some of my notes, I found some notes from my late partner, Judith, who inspired me with messages from the other side to write my first book, Afterlife. I found some original notes that I did connecting with her via automatic writing before I even started writing about the afterlife. And guess what? She said, "You will find a book soon. It will be sent to you, and it will inspire you and help you." Guess what the book was?
God, don't keep us in suspense.
Journey of Souls by Michael Newton.
Michael Newton's first book. Well, that makes a lot of sense, Barry.
So it was sent to me from Spirit before I even started to write my book, Afterlife. How about that? And it's been an inspiration ever since.
Well, there you go.
So he's well thought of on the other side.
Oh, well, even more these days, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, his work has touched the lives of so many.
It has. Well, we had a fantastic chat, a panel chat, about 12 months ago, and talking about what happened. And Michael came through you to say how we have to start being less materialistic. Some chance for most people. But he said, you know, we do need to make a lot of changes. Now, have you had any updates through the conference or whatever? Was Michael there, for instance? In spirit, I mean.
Well, very much.
Obviously.
He's never too far away in spirit.
No.
I guess, and for listeners, the research that you're alluding to where Michael and others came through was that we took 30-odd of our own people into the superconscious state to ask about the greater purpose behind some of the things that were happening in the world that were called a pandemic. And what came through from us was that we had to let go of a lot of the things that were no longer serving us, and that we had to make a choice between fear or love. And that was really important because, you know, we think about love and hate, It's the opposites. And we talk about, fear and courage, but it was, do we go into fear or do we stay in love? And I think when you stay in love, everything becomes possible. So that was it. And it was about, I remember one quote from that research, and it was published, we published it in Nexus magazine as well. Duncan did that for us. And it was published again in the Journal of Humanistic Psychology in the UK. But one of the great summaries out of that piece of research was that it's like the phenomenon that came to be known as the pandemic. It's like it swept everything off the table that was on the tabletop, and we just put back onto the table the things that we wanted. And
so if we can see that as a sign rather than some kind of disaster, then we can work with it, can't we?
Absolutely. It's not, sometimes you need a shake to wake up.
That's for sure.
And I think the world had one just those few years ago. And I think where we take it from here now is up to us.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of change on the way. Now, as we go to air on the 22nd of November, 2 days prior to this, there has been a major change of planets. The planet Pluto, which is associated with transformation, moves from the control area of Capricorn into Aquarius, where it stays. That's more about humanity, more about science, not so much science, but more technology, but also how people are starting to be taken more and more notice of. So this only happens going into Aquarius every 245 years. So it's a major transformation. The last time it did this was the time of the French Revolution. So we are in for some very big changes. So I think where we are right now is the start of a new era. And that is it's a big call, but what you're saying, I think, fits right into that.
Well, I think that's good news, Barry.
Yeah.
Because we all know that there's problems in the world and we've got systems that are no longer serving us. And for those to sort of, if you like, start to fall away and be replaced by ones that are more, progressive and more connected to humanity rather than connected to materialism and the old world.
And control and fear, because that was all the fear. False evidence appearing real. That's why I've always looked at it.
Yeah, that's a good
Although our good friend, you may remember from the launch of that film we did together, Facing Fear, our good friend Bill Bennett has FEAR as, I'll say flip, but you know what I mean, flip everything and run.
Yes.
He broke me up when he said that. So,
absolutely.
I can quote false evidence appearing real anyway, and fear is like that, isn't it? What you're fearing today, this time tomorrow, next week, next year, you probably won't even remember.
That's exactly right. And I think it goes back to the core human wiring of us as individuals that, we've got this fight and flight response. But what we forget, rather than go into fight or flight, we should pause and say, what is it that we're actually facing and what response do we choose to this? And I think it's natural for us to go into fear, but if we just step back out of that and we just say, okay, well, what's here in front of me and how do I choose to address it? And I think that if we come at that from a place of love, then I think the world ends up being a better place for all of us.
Well, you mentioned our good mutual friend Duncan Rhodes, who of course is a regular on this program, and hopefully he'll be on next week's program. But Duncan, who is a very down-to-earth man, he's Victorian, he's got so much he always talks about love being the binding force of the universe.
Yeah.
And I reckon he has nailed it.
I think so. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. It's a fantastic vibration. It's an energy. It's something that can't be scientifically described, but you always know when it's present. It's something that transcends time and space as well. I mean, as you know from mediumship and that sort of stuff, I mean, our loved ones remain close because that connection through love is what enables us to keep in contact with those that have passed. The relationship doesn't end because it transcends time and space.
That's true. So, have you noticed lately, I've talked to quite a few people about this, the veil between us and the other side is very, very thin. Now, I'm getting messages all the time from people. I'll be sitting having coffee with somebody, and all of a sudden, something will come through. And I was talking to somebody just the other day, or yesterday, or today, or whatever, I can't remember. But the message was there. This person is with you right now.
That's exactly
the message, and that was it. So have you found this, because you still do a heck of a lot of work with Life Between Lives, LBL, past lives and whatever. Have you found connecting with the other side right now is, I don't know, is much, much closer?
Well, interestingly, this is one of the trends we're seeing in the Life Between Lives work, Barry, is that people aren't using that long and involved induction, as we call it, to establish like an out-of-body state. People are going there so much quicker now. It's like everything is within reach, more so than what it was when I started this work around 20 years ago. It's like, you know, we are multidimensional. I mean, we're multidimensional beings, and there's an aspect of us that is here in 3D reality, but there's so much more to us than these human disguises. And I think more and more people are starting to embrace that. And those other aspects of us are getting closer and closer. And I feel what's going to happen is the veil will become so thin that will be more natural and multidimensional in the generations that follow, because spirit's all around us, and it's time for us to embrace it more.
Very true. Has Michael Newton commented on this himself in recent times?
Well, he sort of tends to pop up every now and then. I always laugh when I think about that story about how our research committee were having a meeting one time and the lights were flickering on and off, and you know, they got to the stage where they'd have a chair set out for him. So, I mean, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, his consciousness permeates the organisation that he founded before he left. And, you know, quite often I'll turn and I'll say, "Oh, what do you think, Michael?" And a thought will enter my mind, or, you know, you could say, am I projecting that? Am I doing that? Am I connecting with that? It doesn't matter, because the answer is something I wouldn't have had otherwise. So, you know, it's just trusting what comes, I feel. And yeah, he's always with us. I've got no doubt he was hovering in the room in Barcelona and watching our progress of his work and where we're taking it next.
So, apart from the publishing on it, where are you taking it next? Can you tell us now, or is it still under wraps?
Oh no, I'm happy to share. We've come to the conclusion a while ago that Michael's incredible foundation and his beautiful, powerful model of the afterlife was starting to expand in a way that people didn't need the same amount of structure. We're also getting quite a lot of people who are going to sessions that have a more of a cosmic flavour. So for us, it's the themes that we're seeing is that it's more about us understanding that we're not earthlings, we're universal citizens who are just being earthlings here just for the moment. And we're getting a big shift from my purpose to a collective purpose to take humanity to new places. So we have to evolve with that, because, you know, we're becoming more and more an institute for spiritual consciousness and helping to awaken people to the true nature of who they really are. So where we're taking it, we established an internal program in Michael Newton Institute called MNI Beyond, because Michael, in the end of his third book, he said to us, I expect you to take the work far beyond what I've done. And of course, we've responded to that by looking at his work and finding ways in which we can train our facilitators, in particular, new pathways that are more flexible than some of the old process that we've had before. Establishing ourselves as a publishing organisation as well is part of that. Being more progressive in the way that we look at spirituality, no longer hemmed in by hypnotherapy as a modality, but working more with expanded states and spiritual consciousness. All of these are ways in which we're evolving the work and the organisation that supports it. And we have people coming from everywhere within our organisation who want to be part of it.
Has he ever given you a thought that he is part of a collective consciousness on the other side? I don't know why that thought just came to me then. Maybe it's Michael telling me right now. I don't know. I'm serious, because it just came out of nowhere, that thought.
Well, there was a lot of people that like a lot of spiritual leaders that left around the same time. There was Dr. Emoto, who did the water crystal work.
The water crystal, yeah.
Dolores Cannon, who wrote about 20 books on afterlife and hypnotherapy. Michael, around the same time. They all passed within, months of each other from memory. And it's like there's like a gathering on the other side of some of these spiritual people. Yeah.
A collective, not only of those people you mentioned, because they are at a certain time, but I think there was probably a whole lot of people waiting for them. And because I was told that I had downloads on my books from a spiritual group that worked over many levels, many planes in the afterlife. And I'm wondering whether or not now, because it's such an organized area of communication, and they want to help us, they want us to move on. I wouldn't be surprised if that was all being set up, and no coincidence that so many of these wonderful people all passed at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. I think your reason for being doesn't change just because you step out of your body.
No.
You just drop to the skies and keep going. I mean, that's what it's all about, isn't it? We're here to make a difference. We're there to make a difference. So we just make a difference.
Yeah. Just moving away from one form of transport to another.
Exactly right. And we all know everything's speeding up too, Barry, don't we?
Oh,
I mean, everything's getting faster.
Yeah.
We have to keep pace with this evolution of consciousness by challenging the old ways of how we've done stuff, watching, and not be distressed by the systems that will start to collapse because they're in the wrong vibration. I mean, we're seeing big shifts in politics. We're seeing differences in the medical industry. A lot of people have lost trust in our medical industry that hasn't served us well in the last several years. Our education systems, are they still doing the right things? The financial systems are far more brittle than what we've always thought they were. And the ebbs and flows of all of these systems, and they're also tightly connected into each other, that if one of them collapses, it'll probably take the rest of them with it. And then we can replace it with something that serves humanity in new ways.
Well, we have to let go before we can move on in many times, don't we?
Yeah, we do. We do.
Now, what about your work, Pete, with the Quantum Consciousness Institute and all your other work in this area? You're still doing lots of training, workshops, helping people. What's happening in your world at the moment?
Well, we're teaching the consciousness facilitators. We're continuing to do that. And, to be true to my word, we've been exploring some new areas as well. One of the things that we've been experimenting with this year is water consciousness.
Water consciousness.
And of course, we're 70% water. So this is relevant to everybody. But we know from Dr. Emoto's work, when he did the water crystal work, and for those who haven't heard of his work, what he did was he took water and he infused it with consciousness, whether it be a word or a theme or water from a certain place. When you freeze it into water consciousness, it forms all sorts of patterns in the water crystals. And his work was phenomenal. For the people listening in Sydney, and I'm sorry to say that when he did the experiment on the Sydney water system, it didn't go so well because it didn't look great at all. But that was, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
So what we've been doing is we've been expanding people's consciousness outside of their body, connecting with the water in their body and asking for messages. What does the water in your body want us to know? And you'll get comments about their health or about different situations in their lives, whatever it might be. And one of the things we've been doing is we've been infusing the water in somebody's body with different frequencies. And of course, going back to our earlier conversation, the first one we've been using is love. And the second one I've been using is gratitude. And the third one I've been using is grace. And if you look at the map of consciousness of Dr. David Hawkins, when he did his work on that fantastic book, Power versus Force, he mapped all of the human emotions, he calibrated them into his map of consciousness. And these, love is right up there anyway, but gratitude and grace are up there even further. So we're offering these frequencies into the water in somebody's body, and we're using it to flush it through their system for optimal health.
Right. So there is a correlation then between the water that you're looking at here now and our emotions.
Well, you know, I think so. I think emotions flow, water flows. I think there's some real connections that, you know, our emotions can be seen as maybe the water in our body. Our emotions flow, the water flows. If we can infuse the water in our body with a higher vibration of consciousness, then we're finding that people are far more at peace. They're far more connected. It's like it affects their emotional landscape as we raise the vibration of the water that they contain in their bodies.
Yeah.
Too
Well,
early
you've only got to think about the fact that if people have tears, that's water and that's emotion.
Yeah.
Tears are emotion. Joy, sadness, whatever, still emotion.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a good connection. So it's early days for us. You know, I'm not ready to publish a research paper or anything on it, but the initial results are interesting in people's state of being, particularly if they've had some health issues. It's like we're finding ways in which we can hold that higher vibration. And, you know, we're seeing some anecdotal evidence of improvements in health. But even to meditate on the water in your body and to offer the water in your body things like love, gratitude, and grace, I mean, they can't do anyone any harm.
No.
You know, I've got a daily ritual where I'm not far from the beach here, and I'm in a tropical part of Australia where you can swim all year round. Just got to avoid the marine stingers and the crocodiles.
Yeah, apart from that,
yeah, apart from that, you can swim every day. But I go into the water and I work with these three vibrations in the ocean, and I offer those to the ocean. The ocean offers them back to me. But the healing properties of water are profound, and as I've told you off air, you know, over the last little while, my mother passed on October 1st, and I had a couple of really tough weeks, and I went into the water and I asked the ocean to send to me, because everything's a vibration and a frequency. So the vibration of grief has a certain magnitude and wavelength. So I asked the ocean to send me the opposite direction of the same magnitude and the same wavelength, so it could wash my grief away. And I got out of the ocean feeling better. And that was the turning point for me in my grieving cycle.
That's wonderful. So you've done that for yourself, and I know you do Zoom sessions with people, helping them in many ways. Are you going to incorporate this in part of your healing practice?
Yeah, we're finding ways to do that more and more. We've been experimenting with if somebody has some tumours in their body, for example. You know, those tumours contain water. And, you know, somebody gave me a model, which I like, which was about what really is a tumour. Well, a tumour is a gathering together of lower vibrational cells clustered together so that something can happen to them. But if they all contain water, and then we put those higher vibrations into the water that's inside those tumours, what happens? Again, anecdotally, I've seen some changes in people. I've seen some tumours shrink in one case. But what this does is this opens a whole new area of endeavour that we can work with the water in our body and work with the incredible consciousness that is water. When water has various states as well, we all know about the solid, the liquid and the gas, but there's like a fourth state of water, which is when, say, a glacier melts or something, and water is in its most pure form, and it's come straight out of nature or you know, these big ice rivers that they see in some parts of the world. And they've found that the way the molecules come together with the, you know, 2 hydrogen and 1 helium, the hydrogen atoms attached to the oxygen atom move into an angle that expresses the golden ratio. So Fibonacci sequence, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like water in its purest form carries that higher vibration. So, you know, if ever there was a case to take fluoride out of the water systems, you know, that's it.
That's for sure. I did a program on that a few weeks ago. Thank heavens we're starting to wake up. I've seen some reports coming out of the US on all this as well, about the fluoride over there causing lots and lots of problems.
Absolutely. Well, it's been, as you would know from what you've looked at with this, fluoride in the water is banned in most countries in Europe.
That's right.
I mean,
Well,
they've
when
woken up to it already.
you know how it's created, you wouldn't want to have it in your water.
Absolutely.
That's for sure. Now, you are also working with universal consciousness, I've seen on your website there. And a part of that is all about vibration. Now, as soon as I read that, I remember being in a wonderful place over in South America where I was given some crystals and told to go and sit down and raise my vibration, which I did. And I was able to connect I was able to do some interdimensional connection. So vibration is so important and explains so many things about life here, life from other dimensions, our contact, why we can't see human beings living on other planets, because it all ties in there. So what have you found lately that you can contribute to that?
Well, Nikola Tesla summed it up beautifully, didn't he? When he said, if you want to understand the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. I mean, everything has vibration and it echoes frequencies out. So, if you're in fear, you might echo out anxiety or anger or whatever else it might be in the fight or flight response. So for me, if somebody is in distress, if they're carrying trauma, whatever it may be, that's just a vibration. And we don't call trauma, a difficulty or whatever it is. We call it a request for resonance. Because when everything is in resonance, then you're back in homeostasis and nothing can really affect you. You think about a musical instrument that's out of tune and then it comes into tune. I think we're a lot like that because we hold vibrations as well. So when we do our work in universal consciousness and a lot of the various modules, I mean, we're looking to bring somebody back into resonance. If there's a request for resonance, which might be anxiety or depression, whatever it might be, we see that just as the human body trying to get our attention on this path to return to resonance. So when you listen to the depression or the anxiety, or you move outside your body and you look back at it and you ask from that expanded state, what's the greater purpose of the depression? We get incredible answers from our clients. Like, it's wanting to show us that you don't need to carry this anymore, or this is a leftover from the early days that no longer serves you, or for anxiety, for example, it's just trying to keep you safe. Because anxiety is more of a safety system than a mental illness. So, if we start to look at the world and the universe itself through the eyes of vibration and frequency, we have opportunities arise for us that weren't there before.
Yeah. Is science and medicine and so on, are they open to these thoughts, or are they still saying, no, here's a script, go take some drugs? Are we still stuck in that chemical mentality, or can we start to look beyond, do you find?
Well, I think there's a tendency for people to move to pharmaceuticals instead of anything else first.
But that's conditioning, isn't it?
And that is conditioning, and that's the influence of a medical system that could be serving us better than they are with the dependency on pharmaceuticals. And all of that is starting to change now with more awareness coming through. But for me, it's about we've got to ask ourselves who we are.
Yeah.
We are vibrational beings in an incredible universe that is full of energy and vibration. So once we see ourselves as being beyond these physical specimens, what that gives us is an opportunity to look at things vibrationally, energetically, and to find solutions that weren't readily available. Interestingly, you mentioned science, Barry, because science actually has the answers already, because science are the ones that talk to us about the electromagnetic spectrum. And we've got the sensors that can pick up a small portion of the electromagnetic spectrum. That also includes ultraviolet, infrared, gamma, all sorts of different types of vibrations and frequencies that make up the whole electromagnetic spectrum. But our human senses can only pick up a percentage or two of what's happening around us. So we have to ask the question, what else is out there that we can tap into if we move beyond our human senses and try and mine the universe from a different point of view?
But is science open to this, or are they still too blinkered?
Well, I think science are open to what they think the whole idea of science was to explore new territory. But it's interesting when you do a scientific paper and then it goes for peer review, and you may have a certain concept and a certain way of looking at something, and these other peers have a different point of view. And of course, there's that wonderful term that we call the observer effect, that you observe something and you create it and it becomes part of your reality. So everybody who ever does one of these scientific papers is going to prove their scientific paper because of their observer effect.
Yeah.
But if somebody's got a different observer effect, they're going to be at odds with it. So there's some flaws in the scientific mindsets that I feel that they get locked in a little bit to what they have experienced and what they believe, rather than see the possibilities. The exception to this, of course, is quantum physics, where we've got people who are doing, superstring theory or M theory. They're talking about 13 different dimensions. They're talking about the multiverse. They're talking about alternate realities that form out of that multiverse as we make decisions. Quantum physics is the science of possibility. But even within quantum physics, you've got the ones that want to follow the standard model versus the one that want to follow string theory as more of a philosophy. So even within scientific circles, there's not a lot of agreement always.
Well, I suppose there's also vested interest, because I can't afford to upset those people. I'll lose my support, my grant, whatever.
Yeah, that muddies the waters pretty badly, I guess, at the end of the day, when people are looking for sustainability within a scientific career.
That's right. Can't rock the boat.
That's right. It would be wonderful to see, if somebody was a true scientist, just to say, well, we're just going to put a salary in your account. Just go and explore what you want to do and in your field of work, and just publish a paper every year of your findings, and let's move science forward in new ways.
Well, only people who are public servants.
Yes, probably.
Yeah, put a salary in the alcohol and go to meetings and things. I'll let you know.
Exactly.
Not all like that. I mean, plain and cheap.
Yeah, of course.
In our few minutes left, how do you see the future of quantum studies? Not only consciousness, but we're looking at quantum computers, we're looking at the whole area. Is quantum, are we just on the verge right now?
Well, that through the quantum field, we can do incredible things, from visiting other realities to remote viewing of the past, that sort of stuff. I'd like to see us rewrite history by doing remote viewing of what really happened in the past.
So what history is written by the victors.
That's exactly right. And it's influenced by lots of different people, and a lot of history gets wiped out and tucked away, and people have a different memory of it. For us to go back and to actually understand where we've come from and who we really are historically, I think to understand the lessons of the past allow us to create a very different future.
Is that possible?
Well, I feel it is. We know that the American government has done a lot of work on remote viewing when they were spotting missile silos and all that sort of stuff in remote areas and different areas. So it's a long history there, and I think Duncan's probably a good one to talk more about that.
No, I've talked about that before.
Yeah.
And, Ship Atwater was a wonderful person with all of that as well. I've spoken to him many years ago. But that's one thing, remote viewing. But as far as being able to, with the quantum area, to look back at history, quantum viewing, yes, you can go and visit other planets, you can talk to people in jail in Russia or whatever. But can you actually go back to the time? Can we time travel with quantum?
Well, I think we can send our consciousness across time and space. I think our consciousness...
That's what I meant. We don't need H.G. Wells to invent a machine for us.
That's right. And you don't have to take your physical body with you.
No.
I mean, if we expand the consciousness out into the quantum field beyond time and space, we can look at other planets, we can look at the past, we can look at the future, we can pull in our preferred future and make it real in this time and space, and make that a self-fulfilling prophecy for all of humanity. I think that if you talk about the future and where we're going to head, I think we're going to discover the power of consciousness. I think we're going to discover the healing properties of water when it's in its purest form. I think we're going to understand that, we don't really need language, that telepathy is possible. And, we see snippets of that. People are experimenting on that and have been for many years. Imagine being able to go to a foreign country and just connect with the people and speak the language. I mean, this is what the advanced races in the universe do anyway.
And they do it in Star Trek too. So.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like the Pleiadians go and, learn the language of the Arcturians. I mean, these guys just sort of connect through telepathy and get the message sent.
That's wonderful. Well, it's a very wonderful future you're looking at there. And as I said before, we are in a transitional phase at the moment with planetary changes. And I believe that's part. The cosmos is talking to us there. So we'll keep our fingers crossed there, Pete, that things open up and big change is on the way.
Yeah, I agree, Barry. And I think there's only one choice that we can really make. Do we choose to be optimistic or pessimistic? And, I think the optimists are the ones that are going to create the new world, because we'll create that reality by thinking our way into it.
That's a great note to finish on. Pete, lovely to catch up again.
Nice to see you, Barry.
Well, there we are. There's a lot to think about with the holiday season coming up and the end of the year and a whole new start next year. Always great to chat to Pete because he makes us think so much. Wonderful. Okay, I shall be back with you next week on Radio Out There. In the meantime, I'll leave you with a little more of Andrew Ioanou's work, and I think this is rather wonderful. Float downstream. Off we go.